Hi guys, thanks for coming today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jason Johnston. I'm based out of the Greensburg store. And a little bit of history about me. I've been working for John Deere for about 25 years now, working on my 26th. And I'll be giving parts of the presentation, and so will Jeremy.
Thank you, Jason. I'm Jeremy Armstrong out of the Greenfield location, ag sales rep there. Been here for 4 years now, and I'll be talking to you a little bit today about nutrient application. So protect your investment and nurture your crop. Those are the key things we want to focus on for our presentation. To get started, we're going to talk about the 4Rs program. And what is it? Well, for us and Monsanto and some of the other companies out there that are adopting this nutrient stewardship program, it's the 4Rs of nutrient stewardship. Jason,
which are
what they?
Right product, right rate, right place, right time. Now, our job today is to help you understand what you can control and what you can't control, and try to help you with the 4Rs where we can.
So that takes us back to what can we control and what can we influence. We can influence the right rate, and that is the accurate and nutrient application rate. We can also control the right place, and that is precisely put that product in the ground at the place where we need it. And that's next to the roots for most nutrients that we have to deal with. So some outside factors that go with these 4Rs. Obviously, we're going to encompass the entire circle: environmental, economic, and social. Firstly, the right product, the right source. Has a little more bearing on environmental and economic. The right rate has a pretty much an equal bearing on environmental and social. The right place, getting it in the ground at the precise place that we want it. And most of all is time, and that's Mother Nature. She has the biggest impact on us. Economics, time is money, right? We know that. Time is money. So a little bit about some nitrogen and uptakes and nutrient uptakes in some of the crops we're most familiar with. I add cotton in here because I think it's amazing to look at a 230-pound bale of cotton needing 60 pounds of nitrogen to produce itself. And that's taken up through applied nitrogen and through the soil. Corn's what we'll be focusing on mostly today here as we look at what we need for 230 bushel corn. 256 pounds of nitrogen, 180 pounds of phosphorus, and almost 100 pounds of potassium. Let's focus directly on the nitrogen portion of what we need for 230 bushel corn. Our first line representative here today is actual nitrogen requirements for corn. Sure, the flat line denotes some time frame here. We've got growing degree days, we've got nitrogen in the ground and availability here, but this is the fall time. There's no nitrogen. We know that. We've not put any on. Next line representative here is soil nitrogen. This is what's in the ground available for us to use. So, thirdly, we need to get to this point up here. We need to get to the maize requirement or the corn requirement for nitrogen that we need. This comes in an application. Whether it's fall or early spring, it's an application to shoot this advanced nitrogen forward. So as we go forward in days, we get ready to plant, we see a dip in this line and also a dip in the line for the nitrogen that's in the soil. Well, we know that from spring rains, we've lost or had denitrification of soil nitrogen, and also lost some of the applied nitrogen that we put on either in the fall or early spring. So now we're at planting. This is the most critical time that we need to have our fertilizers in the right spot. It's when the most nutrient uptake will take place. So from planting, we need to add a second fertilizer to get us from this point up here to our requirement level to finish out the crop. And we do that by either adding a planting pass or a side dress pass of fertilizer. And by doing that, we supplement our nitrogens to the levels that we need to meet our endpoint. And our endpoint is right here at harvest. This is the point on the exponential growth curve of where it starts to plateau. And that's where we get the most bang for our buck with the nitrogen that we're using, and that's where corn is ready to be harvested. So how are we getting those nutrients there now? And Jason's going to tell us a little bit more about that.
How are we going to get our nitrogens to our crop? Okay, we have multiple tools that can do that. The first one to get our corn. The first one is the 2510L. Okay, 2510L is a 25 liquid. It's a 28 applicator. It's a folding and has variable and everything capabilities. Okay. The next one is a 24C. Okay, the one we show here is the C shank, which is standard. They also offer a tillage shank, also optional with it. So you have two different options with the 2410C. DNR 345. They're out there. A couple words to wise on the 345. If you go to look at one, a couple things you need to know. One, you need at least a 30 series tractor or newer. Two, that takes a special hitch with options on the tractor with the braking capabilities. Okay, so if you're going out there looking at a DN 345, make sure that it's 30 series. Plan on putting trailer brakes on your tractor and putting a special hitch on the back of the tractor. Okay. Now, for years we had a couple different options on sprayers, but the 4920, 4930, and 4940 were combo units. You could get those in combo units, and combo units were commonly used most of the time by custom applicators. That way you could use the liquid and use the dry, so that we could use that tool all 12 months out of the year. But with the introduction of the R series, now we can put that on a smaller one, a smaller sprayer. Okay, the R series now has the option to put a tank, a dry tank on there. So now we can use the liquid tank and the dry system on there. Be aware that if you are looking at an R series, the old 4920s and 30s, they wanted you to have a 10,000 pound lift to switch those back and forth. I haven't looked at the specs on these. I'm sure they're not light, but something you want to look into if you are going to look at one as a combo unit. Okay. Now, what about a gas and dry at the same time, one pass? Can we do that? Yes, we can. Okay. I know there's other options. You could buy about 3 or 4 different products before and put them together and do this, but you was looking at 3 or 4 different products. Okay, more of a Skittle machine or a Rainbow machine that's not exactly one company you're dealing with. Well, now Deere has a 2510H with the dry attachment. Okay, understand that a 2510H has been around for quite a few years. But for 2016, non-retrofittable, as we stand here today, that dry box is the dry attachment for a 2510H. So now we can take a liquid product and run it through our 2510H, and the dry attachment we can put our dry on with that, and we're running 2 products, a liquid and a dry, through the same machine. Okay, the Skittle machine that we talked about, roughly it's going to be like 60 foot long. Not too easy to get around. With this 2510H with the dry attachment, you're probably talking less than 20 foot long. I mean, I have not seen the numbers or specs on them, but you're probably talking that. Okay? Well, how are we going to control 2 products, you may say? I don't know. Well, we do that with rate controllers. Okay? We've got 2 rate controllers. One is a liquid. And pretty much anything Raven or any anhydrous, any 28, any spray, fertilizer, liquid system that has some way of measuring it and controlling it, we can control it with our 2630 with a rate controller. Okay? The rate controller is a great thing. It's a matter of setting it up right. And when you put a rate controller on one of those systems, spray systems, dry, whatever it may be, okay, we got 2 different rate controllers. Okay? The liquid system, that gives us the ability to write prescriptions, have mapping capabilities, and still use section control. So we talked about nurture and protect, right? We're going to try to protect your investment plus nurture it by doing the rate controller, because with the section control, we're going to be able to shut off sections and write prescriptions so that we can spread our money out and use it best across that field and crop. Okay? Now, the dry is just what it says. It's a dry rate controller. The dry rate controller is just what it says. It's going to control a dry rate. Okay? But be aware that a dry rate controller is designed for a spread, that we're not going to be able to use section control on that. Now, if we have a multiple auger or something of that sort, we can buddy it up with the liquid to control that and have sections. But as far as a dry rate controller itself, okay, the dry rate controller is a spreader and spreader only. We can't use swath control, because with a spinner, you have to slow down and speed up the spinner, and that ain't going to help you on your spread pattern, right? So, understand that. Now, talk about the potential. Understand the word potential, right? Don't go home and thinking that them guys are telling me this or them guys are telling me that. This is all potential. These are numbers. It's not put out by us. It's not put out by Deere. This is out there. You can read it anytime you want, but it's potential losses. So,
and that's predominantly why we use the word risks in this table, in this scenario. If you look at this table, you'll notice that surface supply, which is putting on via dry spinner spreader box or DN345, whatever. We may be doing it an inch. You may be putting it on the surface and working it in with a tool, even to 1 to 2 inches. And the numbers on here are losses of the actual product itself. In this instance, we're using urea. And when we use urea, all I'm talking about is the natural breakdown of it and potentials for loss. Our best potentials to have the least a bit of loss is placing it 3 to 4 inches in the ground. If we do that, we stand the chance of risking the less amount of nitrogen that the actual urea loses. So by that, we give our corn crop and our roots the best chances to take up all the available nitrogen that the urea gives us. We're losing up to potentially 50% of natural denitrification of the urea if we're spreading it out on top over a period of time. Key takeaways. So let's take this and quantify it, put it on the economic sense, if you will. 2014 custom rate survey. We asked 195 people of what they expect to pay or expect to be paid out of putting on custom applied passes. And we say passes because it could be a sprayer pass, a applicator pass, a tractor pass, a planter pass as well. So the key takeaways here is what factors were involved. The tractor, the implement, could be a sprayer together, labor cost, and fuel at $3.25 a gallon. So a single pass, and that's just one application of one product, is going to cost us around 13 bucks. If we put down 2 products in one pass, we're going to have a total savings of 6 bucks. 2 $13 passes is 26 bucks. One pass with 2 products is 20 bucks. You've already got 6 bucks an acre savings right off the bat. So let's put this into some numbers that we can see. Here's our setup. 6,000 acre farmer. He's on a 50-50 rotation, pays $300 for cash rent, and is hoping to get $3.67 out of his corn per bushel. Perfect world scenario. He's a little light on labor, but he comes in the fall. His agronomist has told him to apply 200 pounds of nitrogen to achieve a yield goal of 200 bushel an acre, plus whatever the soil holds as well. So he does that in the fall. He puts 150 bushels of nitrogen on in one pass, comes again in another pass, 150 pounds of nitrogen in one pass, and then second pass of P and K. Well, as time progresses, we get spring rains and warm soil and freeze and thaw. We start to lose that actual nitrogen that we put on. Sure, we still have some from the soil, but come planting time, this is where the key nitrogen uptake is for corn that tells us how many rings that we're going to have around the cob. So we need that extra pound of nitrogen, that extra shot of nitrogen. So we come in May and top dress 50 pounds of nitrogen. We're already doing this to an extent with side dressing. You can come in and side dress 50. It doesn't matter however you get it. as long as you get those extra 50 pounds in there.
Now, understand, guys, on the picture there, it shows you a dry spreader, okay? We don't care how you, different areas, different applications. You may have an applicator, you may have a spreader. It's nitrogen, okay? For years, we've been talking about this with wheat. The guys have been raising wheat. We've been running split application nitrogen for a long, long time. And it's proven that it can make our yields better. Well, here where we're at today, we don't see much of that, but it's coming, okay? It's done in Ohio and it's done out west. Here we've not seen much of it, but it is coming. So when he talks about coming in late and giving it 50 pounds of nitrogen, urea, yeah, that's the example of urea. But right now, you may not have a high tall spreader. That's why I said the R series has that R. Here you have a chance to know. Just understand that when he talks about urea, it could be another form, just as long as it's nitrogen.
So we've added that urea or that nitrogen in some way, shape, or form, but we've only gotten ourselves to about 60% of the nitrogen needed for our yield goal. So we're depending on the soil to cover the rest of the way. Well, as we go into the harvest season, we're nearly losing about all of that nitrogen in uptake as well, and potential for some rains as well in the summertime. But we've not given ourselves the best opportunity because we've just flat out lost this amount of nitrogen from October to April. Okay, we've lost that. So yeah, we made it to 200 bushels, but that cost us. And how much did it cost us? Cost us approximately $110 an acre in actual applied product costs. That's applied product costs. It's not net income on your yields, but net income from your applied nitrogen or your applied nutrients. So let's look at a scenario that's more similar to us last year. Same setup, 3 passes, 150 pounds of nitrogen here, P&K in the fall, comes back in with that top dress. Notice that top dress is earlier. Why? We had some excessive rains. If you remember last year, we had 10 inches in 10 hours. We lost a lot of nitrogen in a lot of places, and other parts of our territory had a lot more rain than that. So coming into this time frame of year and coming into planting season, we had no nitrogen. So in order to get that corn out of the ground, we had to come in and put that 50 pounds on earlier. Last slide, we put it on in May. Now we're putting it on in April just to get it something. As a result, we lost all of this nitrogen. We lost everything. All we had was what was in the soil. We give it that shot to get us up there and get us going. We lose it again in the middle of June. By losing it in the middle of June, we depend on the corn to give us the rest of the nutrients out of the stalk and out of itself to get us onto our yield goal. Unfortunately, as a result of these excessive rains and putting it on in timeliness, 4 hours time, right place, right time, we only made it to 90% of our goal. So we lost 110 just by having a normal world scenario. Because of the excessive rains, we lost 20 bushels an acre, and we lost another $50 in additional income based on the loss of these nutrients, these applied nutrients. So by losing those applied nutrients, we're costing ourselves real money, up to $160 in an excessive and an extreme year. And we probably saw that in 2015. So let's look at the right time. If we can come in the springtime, we use a 2510H with a dry attachment on it. Same farmer, same setup. Instead of putting it on back here in the fall, we waited and made 1 pass in the spring. Well, we've made 1 pass in the spring already in the previous slides with a top dress, but we got time now, 1 pass. We're putting down 100 pounds of anhydrous, same P&K. Okay, we have those normal spring rains, but we're still setting ourselves up to have enough nitrogen before we start planting to give that crop what it needs. So we plant, we come in and we side dress another 75 pounds of nitrogen. Guess what? We're up almost to 100% of the nitrogen needed for our goal. So the corn starts to use it. So as we come out, our yield starts to climb, our grain fill starts to climb. We get into August, let's give it one last shot. Here comes that split apply rate that we're talking about. come in here with that high clearance spinner spreader box, put on an extra 25 pounds of nitrogen. We've given that crop all it needs to go ahead and finish out. As a result, at harvest, by splitting this out and getting our timing right and making those nutrients available to the crop at all times, that whole 200 pounds of nitrogen that our agronomist called for, we give ourselves an 18% yield bump. Real world economics, we put 35 bushel additional into our bank and put $81 an acre back in our pocket by utilizing those nutrients and putting them in at the right time and at the right place. It's real money. It's real money. An extra 81 bucks an acre in applied nutrient pickup. So let's get away from timing a little bit, go a little bit deeper into the 4 Rs and focus on the rate, the right rate. Control only what you can control, okay? So that comes with a few different things. First thing that's out of the box for us here today is rate. Ensuring that correct application. Are you really applying what you think you're applying? That's a big question. A lot of times in the past we've done some spot checking, but I would venture to say this is a fairly true statement. 60% of on-farm sprayers have a cal factor error greater than plus or minus 10%. I promise it's out there. Why? Because we don't check stuff enough. We can still spray nutrients. We can spray 28 with our sprayers today very easily. And what you got to do is you got to go out, you got to check your nozzles, you got to check your tips. This applies to our sprayer and chemicals as well in that right rate. So it's not just about nutrients, but it's also about what we're putting on the crop as well to help it get through. One way we can calibrate is we can do a nozzle calibration. Jason's going to take us through a nozzle calibration and what we should look for.
All right, guys. I'm going to show my age, okay? I've been doing this for almost 25 years, and I thought this was just as nice as a pocket on a t-shirt. I'm telling you. Because if you calibrate a sprayer, how do we do it? We hold a measuring jug underneath it for a minute and catch what it is, right? Then we got to go to our calculator and we take it and say, okay, we got so many ounces. We are looking for so many ounces in that minute time. Do the calculations, okay? I'm going to use some real easy numbers here. These are 0.4 red, 0.4 tips, okay? That is 0.4 of a gallon per minute. Pretty simple, right? That's the way tips, all tips are based off of that. Red, brown, 0.5, 0.6, 0.4, whatever it is. Easy numbers, right? Until you go start doing the math. But if I want to calibrate with this new tool, I stole this off from my parts department yesterday, okay? So, and it's about 150 bucks is what it amounts to. But I can do a whole sprayer section by section, tip by tip in 15 or less. 15 minutes or less, okay? But the most important thing is at least get something done, okay? So I hit the start button, and let me start my sprayer and turn everything on. Reach down and hit my full switch, right? All right. My sprayer comes to life. I got 3 dotted lines on it. I stick it underneath there, and I'm, hey Joe, how's it going? Yeah. Make sure Casey gets that back 40 covered or whatever, right? All right. I see the tip. I see the spray. Guess what? I'm running 40 psi, and it says 0.4. That tip's dead on the money. Well, it better be because it's brand new. But that's how easy it is, honestly. That's how easy it is to use this tool. Okay? To use this calibration tool, it's a matter of firing up the sprayer, turning the boom on with water, and catching it, and it tells you right here, I'm right or I'm wrong. Okay? Now, I'm gonna cheat a little bit. Okay, I'm going to bump the pressure up, but we're going to say that we're running 40 psi. Okay, I'm going to catch it again, and we're going to wait and see what we got. 0.42. Okay, what's 10% over 0.4? 0.04. Right? So right now, I'm about 5% over. I'm using numbers, guys, because this is 40 PSI. That's what all major tips are rated at, okay? All your normal spray tips, your 0.4s, your 0.5s, are all rated at 40 PSI. So we set it at 40 PSI. If I get 0.42 on it, guess what? Now that tip is putting on 5% extra. What does that 5% extra do? More money out of my pocket, okay? I'm not putting it on as accurately. I'm not getting the coverage that I need, okay? It's money. Nutrient application, same way if I'm doing it with the streamers, putting it on. You know, if I'm off, if my sprayer's off, it could burn product. It could do all kinds of bad things. That is real money that could be costing you, okay? Now, there's all kinds of other tips out there that we could be using, okay? Understand, let me shut my sprayer off a minute so you hear me easier, okay? Understand that there's tips out there. Delavan is making our tips. I guarantee you we can be competitive on price on any tip out there, okay? But understand, a few years ago, I'll go back again. When I first started this, custom applicators were using stainless steel tips. And every year, what did they do? Part of the driver's job, take them and throw them away. Put new tips on them every year, because at the time technology that's the way it was. Okay? Now today we're using poly. Poly is the best wear for the right money. Okay? Now if you're covering 30,000 acres or something of that sort, then I probably want to put a porcelain on there. Or ceramic, excuse me. Ceramic. Okay? Those two tips are basically the same thing, just one's got ceramic on it. Okay? The difference is, this is around $4. That one's around $12. So, everybody hates it when they hit a tree limb and tear things up, right? Lose a nozzle and lose a tip. Well, I'd much rather the hired hand hit a poly one and lose $4 than $12. $12, I might expect him to go out there and do a little hunting for it, right? So understand that there's tips, and this is a number 4 flat fan, and this is an air induction one. Okay? A few years ago, and the reason why I'm saying this, telling you guys is because right time, right place, even burn down is important, because if you are letting the weeds take that nutrients out of the ground, it's still going to cost you. Okay? So burn down is still important. This is an AI 4 tip. This is just a flat fan poly. Okay? The difference between the air induction nozzle, is they take that droplet of chemical and they put an air bubble inside of it. So now that droplet is bigger. So when it's bigger, it's heavier, and it falls, and you don't have the drift as bad. Okay? That was really, really big a few years ago. Everybody wanted to go to the air induction. Got to have air induction. Got to have air induction. Well, not too many years after that, what did we have? We had resistant weeds. Okay? So we made the droplets bigger on this air induction. Now a lot of guys are going back to the regular, I'll pick it up in a minute. They're going back to the regular flat fan. And the reason why that is because with this one, you got to worry about drift. But what it amounts to is we have smaller droplet sizes. When we go to smaller droplet sizes, we can get more coverage on a plant or that to get a better kill. So I'm not saying which one's better for your application. Just understand that you could see both. Okay, what may work for you may not work for your neighbor. Okay, quickly I'll show you a couple things, guys. One, it's become real popular, especially for my wheat guys. We talked about split applications, right? Those are streamers. Okay, the streamers are a high flow nozzle, and so is this green one. Okay. 10, 15 years ago, if you'd said I'd been running a fluorescent green tip on my sprayer, I would have went, where are you going to buy it? You going to give it to the grandkids and paint it or what, right? When I first started, guys, that 0.8 was as big as we could go. Today, we can get these other colors. They're high flow flood, or high flow fan, excuse me, high flow fan. Okay? And when you look at this, when you look at the nozzle, the droplet size on the size of that one, they are humongous. But also be aware that the streamer and the high flow flood, or fan, golly, high flow fan, are rated at 20 psi because they're high flood. Okay? I turn this number 4 back down here. It's rated at 40. Okay? And if you look at the nozzle, the droplet size on it, a lot smaller. And I'm running a little bit below because I got this high flow, high flood. Okay? But there I can get my pressure back up, and now I'm back looking normal on my spray pattern and all that. Okay? Now, a few years ago, everybody was worried about rust. Rust, it's coming, it's here, it's coming, okay? So what happened was, guys, this tip came out. It's a twin tip, okay? Got 2 tips on it. 0.25 and 0.25, guess what? That makes 0.5 in my book, 5 plus, or 2.5 plus 2.5, right? What do they use that tip for? Well, it's kind of hung around because the guy spent money on it. Now they want to use it, okay? They don't want to set it there and waste it. So what they do is, you got a 0.5 on here. They're using it for some fungicides and stuff like that. It's not really a nutrient application, but it is going to help you on the bottom dollar, the fungicides and some insecticides. They're wanting to fan that and getting it all around there. That's what they're doing with the 2 tips. You're running the same volume as this brown one, but yet I'm doing it through 2 tips, so my pressure is going to be a lot higher. Okay? Now, last of all, if you are running a poly or a stainless plumbing boom, actually the poly boom, there is an update from Deere. They're running a special on it right now if you wanted to update the poly to stainless. If you're interested in that, I'd say talk to your salesman or parts department. They should be able to get you the information on it. Okay? But this is called an express end. Okay? And right now you can still see there's air bubbles right here in the boom. Okay? There's air bubbles in that boom. What does air do to the boom? It causes reactions in the tip, and your rate's not going to be correctly hit. I'll put it that way. Because what happens is, guys, that air bubble will come into that boom and sit there, and I'm not getting the true flow to this outside boom tip. Okay? So what was always the fix for it? Back up to the fence row and put your booms like this and turn it on for about 5-10 seconds. And when you seen that last nozzle quit spitting and go solid, hey, we were good. We can let it down and hammer down. Okay. Well, with this express end, that's going to cure some of that, because on all your poly or your stainless plumbing, you got a piece of pipe sitting out here. Okay. It's becoming more and more of an issue that we found. When you flush out, there's chemical left in that pipe because it's a dead space. Okay. This express end, this is a High Pro. I mean, Deere bought it from High Pro. Understand that the R series sprayer is a Deere design. These are a High Pro design. Okay. You can use these there's 2 different ones. One for a stainless plumbing and one for a poly plumbing. Okay. You need a special tool to put them on. It's not that hard, but basically that pipe right here that sticks out on this side, we're going to cut it off. Then this is going to take the place of that pipe, and my tip is going to be just like this one, right on the end of the plumbing. So I get rid of that dead space and then that air bubble, and there's videos out on the internet and everywhere else, excuse me, if you want to see that air bubble sits there, and that express end will allow that air to go through, and you get a nice smooth pattern out of your tip faster and quicker rather than leaving that air bubble set in the plumbing. Okay? True story, put that on some custom applicators that may flush 3 to 4 times a day. Straight out of their mouth, it says it saves them about 15 minutes per flush. So in my book, 15 minutes, 3 flushes, that's 45 minutes a day that they are spending back in the cab rather than being out on the ground. And let's face it, custom applicators, where are they making their money? It ain't on the ground. It's sitting in that seat getting that sprayer moving, right? So that's a true story about those guys. That's an extra 45 minutes by installing these on the boom. And they like it because they don't have the air problems, the air in the boom and the nozzle problems, okay? We'll talk about calibrations. The calibrations, guys, on the sprayers, it's real simple. And here's a very common one, especially if you have an older style sprayer that uses wheel speed or radar, okay? Don't have it with GPS too much, but we're seeing it a lot of times with older sprayers that are using radar or wheel speed. What happens over a year's time to that sprayer, besides a year older? The tires get smaller, okay? When the tires get smaller from wear on the road, that can change your calibration factor. It can. Have we seen it? Yes. But as we get into trying to save a dollar here and spend it here, let's not spend this dollar, let's spend the dollar over here so that we can make $10 off of that one rather than blowing it over here for no reason. Okay? When you go to that, the tire changes heights, so it changes the radar height. Or you put new tires on the front or the back or whatever it is. Could be a tractor, could be, whatever. That's going to change the angle of that radar gun. That's going to change your calibration number. Same way with tires. My tire gets smaller. I decide to put new tires on it. I better be doing a wheel speed calibration. Okay? Because what happens over time, it's not a big deal. Everybody's calibrated a 250 and 350 monitor. Anybody remember what the number was? 400 foot. 400 foot is what we measure. Okay? So 400 foot, if my calibration number is off, I could be going 401, 402, possibly 403 foot. My monitor thinks I'm still going 400. Guess what? Now I'm under applying. I could have some kill problems. I could have some fertilizer. I'm not getting quite the nutrients. Okay? If I back off and I'm on the other side, I'm running 398, 397 feet. What am I doing? I'm over applying. Okay? I'm over applying. The monitor thinks I'm running 400. I'm not quite running 400. Okay? So what happens is we over apply. We can burn product. We can burn our crop and cause bad things. Okay? When we talk about over applying, 10%. They said calibrations, 10%. 10% on a 3,000 acres, $3,300. Is it worth putting I don't know, according to how big your boom is, anywhere from $500 to $1,000 worth of tips? Is it worth it? I don't know. You could possibly save $3,000. Spending more money up front but making it on the back end, right? And guess what? When you put it on the sprayer, now we are more accurate, so we're going to be putting our rates on. If I'm doing on burn down, or if I'm running my wheat, or I'm running my corn over the top 28 dropping down, my rate's going to be more accurate. Okay? So, basically, guys, we got the 4 R's. You guys are more than welcome to come up and play with this. If you haven't seen one of these calibration tools, it's a great tool, and it doesn't take you could probably have your 10-year-old out there and just have him write it down, right? Okay? I ain't saying that, because make sure you use water and you're flushing the tank out. Okay? Safety. But that is it from me and Jeremy. Okay? Or Jeremy and I should say. Remember the 4 R's. Okay? Right place, right time, right product. Right time? Did I get them right? Phew. Been a long day. Anyway, any other questions? Thank you for coming. Hope you picked up something from today, and we'll be around if you have any questions. Thank you.